turn your camera on if you can. Look, Gibson's here. Hey, Tim's there. He's got a nice Chinese looking shirt on, or Malaysian or something. Cool, cool. And if you have a question, don't be shy. Just go ahead and ask. I've asked all kinds of dumb questions, so yours won't be nearly as bad.
Tracy had a cool question in the chat from earlier that we didn't get during Words class, but I thought it was worth revisiting, and I'd love some mixed nut opinions about transmission. There's some sort of the idea of some sort of a special transmission from teacher to student, and there's this lineage that we're fortunate to be a part of where we know who our teacher is and we know who our teacher's teacher is, and we know who our teacher's teacher's teacher is. And we can go back at least 40 generations is pretty easy for some of us off the top of our head. Um, and maybe even quite a bit further back. And so does that transmission have to be in person, or is there some sort of I hesitate to use the word magic, but a blessing, some sort of significance about the contact that we make with one another here, looking at our faces on Zoom and hearing one another's voices. What do you guys think?
Hmm.
Before retreat, I only ever heard my teachers say that you needed to be in the personal presence in order to receive the lineage. Since the pandemic, I have heard teachers say that Zoom meetings such as this count as being an actual transmission of the lineage.
Why do you think that is? I mean, I was wondering just as you said that if I was just thinking the reason that and maybe I'm stretching it a little bit, okay, but I just had this feeling, and maybe it's baloney, but the world did something amazing in that moment that we stopped around the world for 2 weeks. I didn't believe it was possible. People talk about ideas like climate change, and we can never motivate enough people to do anything. But that was incorrect, wasn't it? And we saw en masse, we saw the whole world stop for, I don't know, 2 weeks. People got a little bored and cranky, but it was still a miracle that for 2 weeks, I think by and large to help other people. I mean, most of us were under the understanding that we probably were not at risk ourselves. I I'm healthy, I eat well, I do yoga, and I probably was going to be fine. But if we all stayed away for a moment, that would take care of people. And I don't know, maybe I wonder if a global act of compassion in unison together can have an effect on the sorts of blessings that are available to us in this world. Maybe, I don't know, I'd like to think we added that power to the world by that massive, extraordinary thing that we all did together. I don't
Yeah,
know if
that's
it's
really
true.
interesting. I think there's something about the Zoom meeting is that it's not edited, it's live. So there's no way for the teachings to be changed.
Mm.
Where a recording can be an edited recording. whether it's audio or video. So I think, plus I really like thinking that all that compassion like made that happen. And then all the lamas said, yeah, Zoom works.
It's a stretch. It's a little creative, but I wouldn't rule it out. I still think it's
Yeah.
nice if you can go meet a teacher in person, but I think this is pretty great. I think it's wonderful to be near a teacher, to be close to friends. I still think there's some special magic there also. But I think what we do
Yeah.
together here is amazing.
I want so badly for Zoom to be equivalent, and I also, because it just makes life more convenient, and a lot of us are busy. But my experience recently is that there's a different feeling when you get to be in person, and that's special, and it's hard to replace. And I feel like if I can, as long as I can have that every once in a while, it'll help fill my cup personally. I can only give personal feelings or experience about this, but I don't have any direct knowledge of what is a transmission or if there's some special energetic thing happening beyond what we can see. But I can say for my own self, I can pay attention a lot more easily when I'm in person. It's easy for me to space out on the computer. So I work extra hard during the mixed nuts, and that's paying off too. I saw another good question here that maybe somebody else wants to help with. My mother has mental illness. Please tell me which seeds could help my mother improve. And that's a tough one. So does anybody want to help out with that one? And we can all share, okay? It doesn't have to just be one of the mixed nuts.
I can share if you want.
Sure.
Everybody is here. Because I'm a medical doctor, and I was always very interested how these teachings can work with, medical stuff. And we have created even a couple years ago through healing project where people had really great results, including like healing from the oncology stuff. And actually, depending on, we had several cases with kids, but I think it should work also for the elderly people, to make them do 4 steps, like to trick them to do 4 steps, like children that we were like seeing with these issues, their moms would take them to help other kids, that had the same issues, like to give them, to share food with them or to do something like that. So maybe you can help your mom to do 4 steps, like to bring her somewhere where she can help other people with the same issues. Otherwise, maybe you will find out how to trick her to help with these teachings, because they are very, they're very powerful. I mean, like mixed nuts for me is like vitamins for our brain, because you literally become smarter when you follow these classes. Maybe you can think about something that how she can help mix nuts, like I don't know, to maybe even very small donation or something like one lady was translating texts, like really simple texts, but it was really for mixed nuts, maybe something like that. And another thing is because she is your 3rd flower and you participate in mixed nuts classes already, so you kind of plant the seeds to be smarter. then you can just dedicate these classes to mental health of your mom. This is what I was thinking just on top of my head.
You know, I had a similar experience with my mom. I want to share with you. I was seeing a mom out there, evidently self-existently, as an addict to prescription medications. And no matter what I could do, I could not get her to get treatment for herself. And so I started helping other people with addiction problems rigorously. I went to 12-step meetings. I tried to get my mom into the car to go to 12-step meetings. She would have a panic attack. She never went to one. So I kept going and going and going and helping people with their addictions. And all of a sudden, the karma shifted, and I no longer projected a mom out there who was an addicted mom. I all of a sudden saw that there's no addicted mom out there. All of that behavior I saw in her was coming from me, and I had to clear all the addiction out of my own heart before I could see her, you know, just the same way as the pen. Hopefully one day I'll see the flaming sword of Manjushri when I hold up a pen. But I have cleared the karma out of my own heart to no longer see an addicted mom out there. Neither of us know what happened. I mean, I know what happened. She is flabbergasted, actually. She doesn't know what happened for the last 20 years. And it dawned on me, she was maybe pretending to suffer like that so I could purify my own mind and heart of those seeds. And it was a beautiful team effort.
I think it's also very, it's scary for people to address mental health. It's scary for people to face that they might need help. And we can all check for ourselves and look for help ourselves. If we have someone in our life who doesn't seem like they're ready to address that. I think I've had told a lot of people in my life at a certain point, if you need help, there's help out there. There are therapists. You can find people to help, like medical professionals who are trained in this. I'm trained in ancient scripture, but I'm not necessarily trained in mental health. I can plant seeds though. And so at a certain point when I was having a tough time, I decided to go find a therapist and go to therapy myself if I want to see people be willing to get help. It is also a way of helping other people. I'm not telling you that a psychiatrist or a psychologist is necessarily going to fix your problems. They could even make your problems worse. They are not the cause, but trying to make matters better can be good. For funsies, for people in the United States, I'm just dropping a link in the chat. There's a therapist finder on Psychology Today. You can sort by whatever insurance you have, by the zip code that you have. You can find help. If you want to see other people do what it takes to get real help, then you have to ask yourself, would you be willing to do the same? And it's there for you.
Ben, I
And
really
it
like
doesn't
what you
even
said.
have to be the same kind of help that you get. But you going for help, say, you know, you need help hanging your Christmas lights on your roof. And instead of trying to do it yourself, you go find your neighbor and you ask them to help you. And then you do it all with a motivation to help your mother and get help. And while you're doing it, you remember you're doing it so that your mother gets help. And when you're done, you say, I did that. I got help. And then at night I don't drink coffee at night, but if you happen to do coffee meditation at night, then you rejoice that you did that. That's a good thing.
Tim, what were you going to say?
I was going to add in that, what I liked what you said there in the sense that anytime I see, like, I don't personally have that same problem, right? I don't have my mother, she doesn't suffer from that, and hopefully she never will. Or in Kat's case, her mother suffering from addiction. I don't see that in my own mom, but the fact that I see it in other people or in other relationships, sort of a far further away from me. What I like what you said is, like, how do we look at our, how can we help them? One, yeah, we could go through everything, all the other advices, but I start looking at ways that I can reach out to other people. Like, okay, like, what kind of addictions do I have? What kind of maybe mental illnesses do I exhibit in smaller ways? Like, maybe maybe I do exhibit some of those, like, dementia things. I forget things, or, and so I like to look at, when I hear about that, I'd like to look at my own life, and I'd like to try to stop those seeds right now. It's like, it's not directly impacting me, but 3 or 4 degrees of separation it is. So I want to stop that now. I want to keep it at 3 or 4 degrees separation, maybe 6, 7, 10, 20. So I like what you were saying, Ben, of and I wonder, as a community, when we have these things, how do we all participate in that? When we hear somebody has a problem, like Kat's mom, for example, like, how could I have helped Kat's mom? And I did, Kat, like, as a fellow Sangha member, I was looking at my own addictions. I was like, okay, in what ways am I even addicted to coffee, which I'm drinking right now, right? In what ways am I addicted to my own suffering, or my own, whatever it happens to be, so in that way, I think as a community, we could work together with, when we hear a problem, we immediately start attacking it, from in our own little worlds, in our own little Zoom bubbles, right? Because that's where we are. We don't see each other. But if Kat's mom has a problem, how can I help Kat's mom here?
That's beautiful. There's a tough question in the chat here that looks philosophical. I don't know if we can handle it. Please describe what's happening as you go from 10th level Bodhisattva to full Buddha, how they see their world from that moment till the next as it turns over. Buddhahood for the sake of others, what would that look like? What does it happen, and what happens in those final moments? They say, right, that you are already an arhat. You've reached nirvana. You're a bodhisattva, and you're at nirvana at, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think at the 8th bodhisattva level. So what are you doing on the 9th? What are you doing on the 10th? And what happens? What changes? I'm hoping some of the nerdier nerds can help here.
The last subtle seeds for seeing things self-existent poofed out of existence for you. I guess. I don't know.
But they were dormant, right? So how do you, like, what does it feel like to have dormant negative seeds? And then what does it feel like to no longer have them? Because, the bodhisattvas are already practicing manifesting different instances of themselves. And it's just like every level they go up there, they can do more. So yeah, I wonder what that last moment is. Like, what's it like when you wake your eyes from sleep?
There's this idea in Ying and Len that you have some stain upon you from those past seeds, some weight. Something's not, like, perfectly smooth until that moment. You're a bodhisattva, meaning your mind is made out of wanting to be enlightened, to get people to that state, and you no longer see things wrong, but there's some, I don't know, like subtle ookiness, sorry, translators, some subtle yuckiness, some subtle shadow uh, of the seeds that won't go off, that supposedly fall away at that time. What do you think? What would that feel like? I'm sure I don't know. Well, we're struggling to come up with the answer. Nick, did you pop up because you suddenly had an answer to what it feels like to get rid of Ying and Len?
No, I was hoping we would skip that question.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. I don't personally have any experience with that. So
They say that only a Buddha can see things as they truly are and see the illusion at the same time. I've never heard that an 8th level bodhisattva can do that. I could be wrong, but that seems like a pretty big deal. There's this state they call the nirvana that does not stay, meaning you don't stay in a perfect meditation upon reality, and you don't stay suffering in the world, that suddenly you would be able to act in a way that did not require you temporarily forgetting a little bit the way things are. That somehow, until that moment, anytime you think about serving other people, anytime you think about the way things are, when you think about positive topics and perhaps even love, that there's some pause in directly knowing how things are, directly knowing that there's no one there that's not coming from you. My feeling is that that's a pretty important part of that experience, that suddenly you can act to take care of other people in a way that would never mistake for a moment that somehow they were truly separate from you, that would never for a split second think that your actions in the world were towards anyone who was further from you than the chambers of your own heart.
You know, that's
Maybe.
beautifully said. And I want to summarize the story of my mom with what you just said. She showed me directly that all the suffering I see in the world comes from me. And so now, I realized, oh, this is how I create a Buddha paradise, is by addressing all the obstacles in my heart so that I'm not capable of forgetting that it all comes from me, and make sure that what's coming from me is not suffering. So Geshe Michael's talk on the 5 powers last week, I decided I'm going to do power 3 right now, which is confessing the worst of the things I've done in this lifetime that I would never want to tell anybody about while I knew I was still going to live. And so I started thinking about those. Oh my God. And I'm thinking this state between the 8th bodhisattva level, the 9th, and into the 10th, is maybe we can get there by considering we're at the end of this lifetime. What's the worst I can imagine in my heart that needs to be confessed and purified? And keep digging and digging and digging until finally one day, poof, no more. They're all gone. All those negative seeds are gone. So I think maybe it's a constant quest, a search and destroy You know, but I mean, digging deep. Oh my God. I hope I live through this phase I'm going through.
Yes.
It's grueling. And I know that it will get easier and easier as I deal with these confessions I could only make on my death.
Radical self-inventory. That's beautiful. Are
Can I make?
there,
Oh,
please,
sorry.
Juan? Yeah, please. Juan, are you
No, I
gonna?
was just, yes. Can you hear?
Yes.
This is the debate that Hasso famously, where he just decimated like 25 geshes all with one hand clap in India. It was epic.
Can you hear me?
Yes, all
We
of a
could
sudden
not
we
hear
can.
you.
Okay, sorry, I was struggling with the phone. Regards this conversation lately, I was studying the foundation courses number 2, and I think there, if I remember correctly, I hear this idea of reaching Bodhisattva level 8 with bodhicitta is reaching enlightenment. And I got confused about it because basically it was saying like reaching nirvana. If you have bodhicitta, it's the same as reaching enlightenment. But I think some other times I have here differently. So I just have the question if any of you has thoughts on this.
As you said, Juan, I think that is the tradition that there is. We said there is some sort of a state which is free from misunderstanding in the sense that you're in nirvana and you have bodhicitta, meaning the utter motivation to your bones to act in service of others, and that's level number 8. And I forget, guys, if 10 is Buddhahood or it's 10 and then Buddhahood. I
But
don't
also,
know.
that wouldn't mean that it will be impossible to have an Arya Bodhisattva level 9, because if at level 8, if he or she was already a Bodhisattva, turning reaching level 8 with bodhicitta, make them into a Buddha, then it couldn't exist such a thing as a Arya Bodhisattva level 9.
I think there is
Right.
some distinctions that are described in Komparabso about this. Maybe somebody remembers better than I do, but I think there are some subtle distinctions of just little things that you get rid of from your mind as you progress to level 10. Yeah, I think you're right about that also, Utpala. She says in Uttara Tantra.
Mm-hmm.
As well as maybe some other places we've seen this. But yeah, I think there's some, and by the way, in other traditions, which I don't really have much knowledge of, there's even more bodhisattva levels. So there's probably different ways that you can describe this process. So don't get too, I mean, my practice is never to get too boxed in on the details and things have to be just exactly like this. Maybe different ideas are going to help us at different times in our life.
I've always thought
Kind of
that if
tricky,
you,
right? Because
Please.
there is no enlightenment out there that we're going to go to. Does not exist. We create it. So, you know, what details are we going to create in our enlightened state? Right? So it's kind of helpful to study, but then also helpful to keep in mind that it ain't real in the sense that it exists outside of how I perceive it and see it.
That's nice.
Didn't would imply that, I mean, I'm just exaggerating a lot, but wouldn't that imply that you could get enlightened by doing bad deeds?
Cheer, why would you say
Yeah.
that?
Because if enlightenment is, how do you say, very personal and in a way could bend the certain patterns or laws or steps, then it could all depend on your seeds, let's say, on how you're creating your own path and system to reach there. But you cannot say if something is a little bit, how to say, things cannot be just a little bit empty. Either they are 100% or they are not. And if they are 100%, could you then, as I say, just exaggerating, but could you take it that far and say that, okay, then I could get enlightened by, I don't know, doing whatever I was not supposed to do? Because
Yeah,
then
so
it's in the...
Did Jim Jones think that he was enlightened? Did he perceive himself as being enlightened? The guy who led a lot of people to their deaths by
As
drinking Kool-Aid.
As Shakespeare said, a rose by any other name would smell just as sweet. You can probably make a definition for the smell of a rose such that that was fulfilled by the smell of garbage. And you could call a rose garbage, and you could call garbage a rose. And I'll take the garbage in that case, please. So you could imagine a sort of enlightenment which was made from pain, and you could call it enlightenment if you want. You could talk about creating pain and more pain and more pain and living in that pain. And because words don't have any nature of their own, if in some language that's called enlightenment, you could say, yeah, you've reached enlightenment, but no, thank you, sir. I will pass on that enlightenment. And instead, I would like the enlightenment defined as that state which is created by love. Yeah, pain to who, Anna? I think means pain to you. If you feel pain and if you inflict pain on others, it's just the mysterious truth of the fact that like comes from like. There's an old debate. They say if emptiness is empty, this is hard. If emptiness is empty, could I project a world that was not empty? You see? But if that were true, the world would have to be empty to accept your projection. So somehow that you could make some non-empty world would only be true if the world were empty, which means it's impossible, which means that love will continue to spread into love and pain will continue to spread into pain, not because it's self-existently true, but because you feel it, because your experience of love can be furthered by your effort to create that experience.
So it's something like there are certain patterns, let's say, or bases that we cannot mess with. Let's say alike creates alike. But there are some other steps or bases, like the Bodhisattva levels or something like that, who those are not necessarily that rigid. And those allow some change depending on our seeds.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's hard for any of us to. How could we say? But how so?
No, I don't know, but that's what I ask because I really don't know.
A minor answer, I would say, I've always had a suspicion, and this may be wrong, but if it's true that only a Buddha can see ultimate reality and deceptive reality at the same time, then it might have to mean that the 8th and 9th bhumis are a state of perpetual meditation on emptiness, because the state of nirvana is one in which you are no longer fooled even for a moment. So I don't know if that's true, okay, but one solution might be if there were a being in nirvana who had the wish, who had bodhicitta, but were not yet able to see both truths at the same time, maybe that means those last bhumis are one uninterrupted state of meditation. I don't know, but it would be a convenient, logical solution. at least for now.
Thank
Another
you.
question. Yeah. Elmira has been practicing for a few years now and has gotten cool results. I'm so glad. Lately, I've caught myself thinking less and less about the future, about dreams, and instead keeping track of what bad things I've done in the past. How do I get out of this state quickly? Mixed nuts, help. Friends, help Elmira. Don't leave it to the
Does
host to
this
talk.
state bring you some sort of dissatisfaction or discomfort?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, my mic is strange, working strange. Yes, I have some strange thoughts now that just catch myself that that I'm just thinking about my bad things, but I'm just thinking about what bad seeds I made, because I don't know, it's a real very strange period now for me. So maybe someone can have some quick advice for me.
Well, you can think about
Sorry.
your teacher being in your life and what amazing, incredible, unfathomable, that person is in your life. Like that karma is amazing, and that it's been going on for however many years that you've known this person is just amazing. You know, each night think about that and you know, things like that.
Yes,
There's
you know, Venerable Utpala, it's really very beautiful when I in the morning, it's really beautiful practice, and when I'm thinking about teacher and about the beautiful seats I have now. But very strange when evening come, I became more and more depressed. So thank you. I will
So
try to
make a plan in advance. Like, okay, lately, as it comes to evening time, my mind likes to think about, you know, wondering what bad stuff I did in the past. So what can my plan be to when the first thought comes up? Something like, oh, you again. Aha, you want to talk about negative things right before I go to sleep. Guess what? I want to think about all the positive things that I did today.
Thank you very much.
I want to share
I will try to do that. A
Gibson.
new schedule. Sorry.
Good.
That's okay. I have a similar situation. Like sometimes I'll be going down of like a downside of the mood, and I find out it's a tendency that I have every time I meet someone. I try to see the bad habit of them, and I didn't see the good side of them. So I find out if I keep criticize other or see the backside of their character, then I would see myself criticize myself a lot, like your situation. If I want to do my book, I want to do some coffee meditation. It's not very easy to do that. There's some energy that drive me back to thinking about the bad thing that I'm done, and it's not a healthy one.
you were thinking that I'm a bad person and I didn't deserve what I have now. And because I do so much thing when I was young, and even though I did some full power, I didn't feel that I have cleaned it up. And so my teacher tell me that I should encourage others to cover meditation and to see the good side of others. And even now when we are online in the Zoom meeting, when we see other people recite the Tibetan well, and we try to celebrate their progress and not to criticize in our hearts or jealousy about them. And I think it will help you to get rid of this habit to criticize yourself.
My yoga teacher, my main yoga teacher, who is my wife, she's an incredibly gifted teacher, and I have tried my best to emulate her. She has one trick cooler than all her other tricks. She just tells people over and over how beautiful they are, how beautiful their pose is, how wonderful they're doing. And sometimes it's hard, right? Sometimes it's hard to like break out of our shell and praise people. And people can be cynical and they'll say, yeah, but not for long. We are suckers for it, I think you would say in English. You'd be surprised how much people love to be praised, how powerful it is, how wonderful it makes people, even if I know you're gonna do it, even if you know, Elmira, I'm about to do it. And I remember from a very early time, Elmira, how strong your pronunciation was in this class. I remember the first moments I met you in this class, your eagerness to participate, the clarity with which you were pronouncing, the effort that you have made in this class has been obvious to me for years, and it's very impressive. And it's honest. I'm being honest. It's wonderful, fun to praise people. There's an old joke about when you start meditation, that you think to yourself, "Oh, my mind never seemed so out of control until I started meditating," because we don't notice until we start to pay attention, and we learn to critique ourselves, just like for those who keep a 6 times book, and you say something positive and you say something negative, and we can hang out on that negative. But you know, we all have negatives. And whatever negative thing you notice about yourself, that's not special. The fact that you wrote a negative is quite special and beautiful and extraordinary. Looking for these things in yourself is a plus. Your minuses are pluses. Every time you write a minus, it's secretly a plus, because we all have the same minuses pretty much. But very few of us err. And that's very special that you're noticing these things about yourself. And so stick close to us, someone like you who is bravely investigating their own flaws and wanting to be a better person. It blesses us all. You're trying to be better to all of us, and I thank you for that. It's really, I need friends like that, please. So thank you for trying so hard. It's really, it's an honor that you pay to all of us trying to be a good person.
Wow, thank you very much. This was really beautiful to have this beautiful response from you, Ben, Gibson, Venerable. Thank you very much.
There's one thing I'd like to add to all of that, Ben, you are one of the people that I admire about how you praise other people. You're really, really great at it. And I recently learned from Geshe Michael that one of the ways to combat some of this negative self-talk is to pre-praise and pre-appreciate people before anything. So in the sense of, like, if you're trying to hire someone for your business, already appreciate them. Thank them for giving up their time. Thank them for giving their life to the company. Thank them for wanting to, learn and meet everybody and learn about their friends and their family and develop those relationships ahead of time. Or, if you're teaching a class or anything that you're doing, even before anybody shows up, appreciate them. Think about all the cool things that they're doing and that they're doing to help you, or we're all doing this together, something like that. And I found that actually has really helped me show up as a different person. Because when somebody walks up the stairs and I've already thanked them before they got here, my energy is completely different with them. And then my energy with myself is a little bit different as well. So I just wanted to add that in as one additional thing I've recently learned.
Thank you. I love it. And I'm thinking about the word prejudice comes from prejudge. I wonder what the word is for pre-appreciate.
Yeah. Right. It's the best kind of prejudice, isn't it?
Let's make up a word.
Yeah. I love it. It's nice. And you see, it's a good example. I see what you're doing, Tim. I see you praising me for praising. But it just feels nice. I see him doing the practice, I still like it. I can't help it. I just can't help it. I'm a sucker for it. I know that he's going through intelligent motions for his own personal development. But aw shucks, thanks. You see, like, we can't help it. It makes us feel nice. And the power of practice is you do something again and again and again and again, and it changes you. I try to teach one verse of the Yoga Sutra every day in my yoga class. And today the verse was on Santosha, which is like noticing how beautiful stuff is already. And Master Patanjali says, Santoshanimata Sukha Labha, from noticing how lovely the people in your life are already, from noticing already how lovely your life is already, comes sukha, bliss, delight. We get the word sugar from sukha because it's sweet, or azúcar in Spanish. Anumata, without measure. It just doesn't take anything other than praising and praising and praising. Praising yourself, praising me, praising your mom, praising your kid. The more times you do it, the more you will come to notice those qualities in people the second you see them. You can't help it. You get good at it. You get good at noticing the beautiful qualities. And then before you know it, you just accidentally start thinking people are beautiful because you have shaped your heart in that way. Holy moly, Tim, that's cheating. Who are you asking a question like that?
I'm asking Gibson, but I'm asking everybody.
Good. What are you asking?
Well, the first thing one does is they praise dependence.
Oh yeah.
And so I was just playing off of what you were saying. I was having an emotional moment and crying a little bit, and I thought of that, and so I thought I would just add that.
That's beautiful. The first thing one does after seeing emptiness directly is to praise dependence, or to praise the Buddha for teaching dependence, or to praise Tim for translating a text on dependence. or Sugang maybe. Or maybe everybody. Maybe no one is actually translating a book about anything else at all. Yeah, you might even sell your car and buy a diamond. I've heard that. I never did that. That sounds fun. Are there other questions? We have 4 minutes. This is your last moment. You're too shy to ask a question, but if you don't, then it could be too late. Oh, cool. Jackie, a nice, easy one, I'm sure, right? How can we joyfully assist, nurture, support those dear to us with gentle, kind steps? Let go of Jackie, you can talk, right? Is that would you just talk to us for a moment?
Thank you so much, Ben, and thank you so much, everyone, for your beautiful time to be here together. So the question comes around someone that you see that has a significant amount of home hoardings, how we can help them to let go of their things that they're very attached to. I'm making the effort to actually look at all my things in my home. So I'm being the example, but how we can actually see them make that change themselves and without them being in traumas and things like that. So if anyone has any ideas from their experience, what they would suggest would be most appreciated.
What do you guys think? Hoarding, holding too many things. How do you help somebody?
Seems like holding on to many things is thinking that they bring us happiness. And so maybe helping people to see how they can be happy without even thinking about things, going to the park, listening to a child laugh, seeing flowers, scents of fruits. So many different things can bring us happiness. And so, gosh, even just seeing that, right? Just getting that, I think you lose such a strong attachment to things.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's true. I think of Geshe Michael says, I've heard him say, think about the shoes that you wore today. And then what today is Monday, so I wore like those shoes I wear to work today, but then but maybe you have weekday shoes and weekend shoes, and then you can think about your weekend shoes. But then if you wear the same work shoes every day, then they'll get stinky, right? They need like a day to off gas. So you have your like number 1 weekday shoes and your number 2 weekday shoes. And then let's talk about like a number 3 weekday shoe, or maybe you have even a number 4. And if you think about that number 3 or number 4 workday shoe, that's kind of out of the rotation, but it's there. If you know where it is right now, then that proves that it's taking up some hard drive space in your brain. And if that's the most important thing to you, then I guess who am I to judge how many shoes you need to have? But if you want your mental space to be able to do anything in your life that you're finding more fulfillment in, then getting rid of shoes will allow your brain more space to do more service. I think we're there. I think we should let everybody go
I
for
think
the
that's
evening.
time.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. Thanks for spending this extra time sharing together. It's really, I find it very supportive to know that I have a community who's trying like I'm trying, and it's even reassuring to me sometimes when you tell me that sometimes it's going well and sometimes it's not, because me too, and we have each other to turn to, and I'm very grateful for it. And thank you so much, Word, for leading class this evening. Are you staying, Word, to teach reading?
Yes.
You're so good. So if you want to look as clever as Word's peoples, then please stay. And thank you, Juan Hasso, for leading the Peachtree World News tonight. Thank you, live translators. I don't know how you do it, but we're blessed that you do. Thank you, Word.
Thank you, Ben, for everything.
Thank you.
Okay.